Hurricane Iota is not just another storm. It is now the most powerful one of the season. Iota could dump rain on crops already saturated by Tropical Storm Depression Eta earlier this month. And some coffee growing regions have been drenched. And while prices were down this year, wild weather could mean a more expensive cup of coffee in 2021. And to discuss the future for the industry, we're joined by Bloomberg's Ainsley Chandler, who covers agriculture from Sydney for Bloomberg. Ainsley, thank you so much for joining us. Now, to get us started, we see that coffee is one of the worst performing agricultural commodities of the year. Why are prices down so far right now?
Well, due to COVID, a lot of cafes and other restaurants and places where you'd normally drink coffee have been shut all over the world. So demand's been quite low, while the stocks that we had out of areas like Brazil have been quite high this year. And that's kept prices quite low during 2020.
Now, we do know that weather's impacting coffee prices. We've seen wild weather. We've seen other growing regions that weather's been very hot. Can you explain why this might change the tide for coffee next year?
Yeah, we've got a La Nina weather system coming through, which means various things for different parts of the world. It can mean a drought in places like Brazil, which is, obviously one of the biggest coffee growing areas. But coming through Southeast Asia, where you've got regions like the Central Highlands in Vietnam and various parts of Indonesia, they're likely to get a lot of rain in the next few months, as well as wild storms, which could impact growing there too. So there are some concerns about the supply coming into 2021 and whether that could push prices up next year.
And how are some of the suppliers preparing for that? Are there special practices that they take to help their coffee beans be protected in case this happens?
Look, I'm honestly not sure. It's very hard to predict. That's one of the wonderful things about commodities, I think. You really don't know what's going to happen and how it's going to be affected. What they're really looking at this year is how strong this La Nina system's going to be. So if it's mild and places like Vietnam and Indonesia just get a little bit more rain, then that could be wonderful for growing and we could end up with more coffee next year. If they get some really wild storms, then that can obviously go the other way.
Now, the question all of the consumers watching, they want to know, is this going to impact their cost of their coffee? Is this going to enhance or increase the cost of coffee?
Yeah, well, I think certainly your retailers and cafes could be spending more on their coffee beans, but whether or not they pass it on to consumers after the year they've had is another story. I think there's a lot of cafes and places that have been struggling and, they could be willing to absorb a little bit of cost if they can sort of start getting their consumers coming back after these COVID lockdowns, the restrictions start getting lifted in various parts of the world.
Okay, Bloomberg's Ainsley Chandler, thank you so much for being with us.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.